Lamed, Amud Beis. Ma'aser ben Beviyayin. The second line. Ma'aser ben Meviyayin. Ma'aser with the son of Meviyayin. That was his name. It really means the wine bringer, but here it really means his name. As maybe Shani was a big tzaddik, as we'll see in a moment. Shnasam beno Pe'eliera. His son was an Amoritz, obviously, gave payah for vegetables, lanim to poor people. Now, of course, it's not valid payah because you can't give payah for vegetables because they're not preserved in a warehouse from year to year, so they're not eligible for payah. Ubar Aviv and his father Ben Meviyayin himself came. Matzon on the Pesachim and found them standing on the opening to the garden. So he said, "Anichu ma'ashabiyadchem." Put down that which you have. Inichu ma'ashabiyadon. They put down that which they had. V'nasalem kibikiflayim, and he gave them twice as much. Musarit of stuff which is meiser, because pay is exempt from meiser, and they were exempting it improperly. Lo shoysaino tzara. Not that he was stingy. On the contrary, rather he was concerned. The words of the rabbis that the yerek is not eligible for payah.
So we assume that people when they did vegetables not nicer.
Which is bad. Right. Okay. Once Rabbana needed an adava, they needed money for a certain cause. Shalom Rabbi Akiva. No, in Madaik in the old days they only needed occasionally. Shalom Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva Chami Rabbana, he made one of the other rabbis with him. Asum boy male legabe. So they came and wanted to go into Ben Meviyin's house. The Shaman Kali Italia. And they heard the conversation between him and his child. They heard the voice of the child. Amarle, his child said to the father, Manis ben Lachiyamaday, what should I buy for you today in the marketplace? Amarle, so he said, Truksamin, certain type of vegetable, Lomin Yomaday, but not today's cut, which is fresh, Elamine that's small, but rather yesterday's cut. To Kamish Vizol, which is ready beginning to wilt and therefore is cheaper. So when they heard this, Rabbi Akiva and the other rabbi, Shavkun Le Va'azulon, they left him alone and they went because they figured he must be so poor now that he can only afford yesterday's vegetables. Why should we bother him? Mean the zakun kol arma. Once they're mazaka everybody and giving tzedakah, once they took from everybody else, asim gabe. So they came to Ben Meviyayin. Amarlon Ben Meviyayin said to them, Lama lo asisun gabe kadmoi. Why didn't you cut me first? Come on, like you used to do. So he says, Rabbi Akiva said, Farasina, we came, Visharmin and Kali Italia, we heard the voice of your son. Amar Lach, saying to you, Manit Malach Yomadeh, what you brought for you today? Amarkle, you said to him, Simon. Lomin to Simon, a certain type of vegetable, Lomin to Yomadeh, not today's. Elamine the Esmo, but yesterday's the Avogdu Kamish Vizolil, which is wilted and cheaper. So we figure you're out of money. That's why we didn't want to bother you for funds. So Omar, so he said, Ben Meviyayin said, Ma de Beini de Ben Talia Daitin. That which is between me and my son, you know. But Ma Beini Ben Bar, you don't know what cheshbon I have between myself and my creator, my Borei. In other words, I'm stingy with my own expenses, but not in expenses of Shem Shemaim. So nevertheless, even though he made a mistake, still we can rectify the matter. Azum v'amrullah, go and tell my wife, she'll dispense to you funds. So you have one bucket of coins. Azum v'amrullah, so they came and told her. Armalon, so she said to him, Ma Armalcha, what do you say to give? Gedil, a heaping container, a heaping bucket, or machik, or a level bucket? Armalon, they said to her, the truth is Sasam Armalon. You said to us without telling us whether to give us an exact measure or a heaping measure. Armalon, so she said to him, I'll give you a heaping measure. Vin Oimer Gdil. If my husband says that he wanted to have, in fact, heaping measure, how can we loy? So I did it like he said. Vin lo, and if not, he really meant to give you a level measure. And I give you more than he intended to give. Ana chashvana gudlana, I will reckon and deduct the excess min parni from my own allowance. In other words, a woman gets an allowance from her husband, she'll deduct it from her own allowance. Came to Shama Balakach, once her husband heard what a righteous wife he had, Kafal Ksuva, so he doubled her Ksuva, which I assume in this case is Lav Dafka Ksuva, but rather her now allowance for every week. So he was very happy his wife gave the tzedakah.
You see, this is how to scare off from
About how cheap you are here. Nowadays, I think they're impervious. Okay. From what? No, it's not earned money. It's allowance. It's no. You don't have to get meiser from it. Only from what you earn, not from allowance that you give. Okay. The Talmud is slaughtered at the 8.5 hour of the day, which is, according to a regular perfect clock, 2:30 in the afternoon. For Kohen method, sacrificed at the 9.5 hour, which is 3:30 in the afternoon. Erev Pesachim, on Erev Pesach, you push it up an hour. The Korban Tummy is Nishcha B'Shem Merta Shechta 1:30. The Korban Shmona Merta and sacrificed at 2:30. Bein B'Chol Bein B'Shabbos. This is true on Erev Pesach whether it occurs on a weekday or on Shabbos. Chal Erev Pesachim Lios Erev Shabbos. If Erev Pesach comes on Erev Shabbos and you're really short for time because you have to roast the Korban Pesach for nightfall, then Nishcha B'Sheish U'Merta Nishech the Korban Tummy at 12:30. And Korban B'Sheva Merta and it's sacrificed at 1:30. Pesach and the Pesach follows it immediately. Okay, now, how do we know that there are two Tamidim and they're brought at different times of day? See, it says, this is what you should do in Mizbeach. I might say bring both Tamidim in the morning, or both in the afternoon. How do we know you bring only one in the morning, one in the afternoon? Should make the one sheep in the morning, one out of the two. Well, I might say Shel Shachar. That you do the Tamid Shel Shachar with sunrise. Shel Bein Arbaim, you do Mechama and Bein Arbaim with sunset. No, it says Bein Arbaim, between the evenings. What does it mean between the evenings? Ma Bein Arbaim Shneimar L'Alam Mishei Shos L'Mala, just like Bein Arbaim, which is said elsewhere, meaning by Pesach. It would Pesach, which is Shech in the afternoon. It means in the afternoon. So too, so the Bein Arbaim says here Mishei Shos L'Mala is from 6 hours and beyond. I asked the Gemara, Ma Chomitz Meir Bein Arbaim Mishei Shos L'Mala. How do you know that by Pesach that Bein Arbaim is from 6 hours and beyond, meaning from 12 noon? There's no clear-cut proof. There's evidence to the matter, which the Pasuk in Yuma. It says there on Yirmiyah, I'm sorry, I skipped. The day has turned. The shadows of the evening are falling already. Well, this Erev, which is mentioned in Yirmiyah, is the minute the sun starts inclining towards the west. So it's like this Erev is from 6 hours and beyond. So to the Erev which is mentioned by Bein Arbaim is from 6 hours, meaning from noon and onwards.
Not necessarily speaking about
no, not necessarily about a Pesach. In fact, the Gemara has to be a kosher v'sheisho sulamala. This is talking about the Korban Pesach. Yeah, Mechamayim says. This question is yeah kosher v'sheisho sulamala. Why is the Korban Pesach not kosher for 6 hours? Why do you wait till after the Talmud? Do it earlier, before the Talmud, from the moment the day starts turning to the west. So it says, I'll tell you why. Rabbi Shimon Levi says, Omar Bein Arbaim Ketzai. How it says Bein Arbaim by both the Korban Tamid and by Korban Pesach. What does Bein Arbaim mean? Chalek Bein Arbaim, divide up Bein Arbaim, retain low, and give it Shtei Shos U'Metzel Lefonav, 2.5 hours before, or Shtei Shos U'Metzel Achrav, and 2.5 hours after. V'Shah Achas Lisuka, 1 hour to do the Korban. So Bein Arbaim means divide the Arbaim in half. That's why you have the Korban Tamid normally is brought 2.5 hours in, which is at 2:30, and it takes an hour to do it, and the sacrifice is completed at 3:30. So it's 2.5 hours before it and 2.5 hours after it. Okay? So that's how we know to divide out. Chalek ben Arbaim telo Shtei Shos U'Metzel Lefonav, Shtei Shos U'Metzel Achrav. V'Shah Achas L'Yisuko, and 1 hour to do it. Nim Tzeis Omer, so you come out, Shatami Koreh B'Tei Shos U'Metzel. The ideal time is when the Tamid is sacrificed at Einav, and it's slaughtered at 8.5 and sacrificed at 9.5. I'm Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said, I got a problem. You were running out that Korban Pesach is brought in the afternoon for a Korban Tamid. Well, just like Talmud says Bein Arbaim means middle afternoon, so to Korban Pesach. So Rabbi Yossi says, but Rabbi Yerushalmi has got a problem with this. The problem is, Rabbi Yossi got a problem with Yerushalmi Levi. Because Reisha, the Omar, sorry, I skipped. Or rather, I misread. Omar Yossi, Shavak Rabbi Yerushalmi Levi, Reisha. He forgot the first thing which it says in the Torah. What's the first thing mentioned in the Torah? Pesach or Tamid? You spec correctly. Which parasha is Pesach mentioned for the first time? Which parasha is Tamid mentioned for the first time? I think Pinchas. Tomorrow's laning. You know what tomorrow is? Very good. So,
already down.
You in shul and somebody stopped you?
No, it's not. I mean,
So Reish, he learns out for the Reisha from Shavak Reisha. He leaves out the Reisha, which is Pesach itself. The Yomer V'Omer Sefer learns out from the Sefer, which is Korban Tamid. No, you don't have to do this. The locate is not necessarily the case. Rather, Kadad Tani, I can learn from Pesach itself. How so? Like that which it says, Rabbi Chanina ben Yehuda Omer, Chanina ben Yehuda says, Shomani Bein Arbaim. I hear the Bein Arbaim. In other words, I understand that Bein Arbaim is Bein Arevo Shel Arba Asar Ubein Arevo Shel Chamisha Asar. As between the evening of the 14th and the evening of the 15th, Erev and Erev. Yochi Kol Yom V'Layv, because it includes the entire day, entire night of both dates. Tam Lomar Yom. No, it only includes the day. Shomer Yom Yotzalayla, excludes the night. Well, if it excludes the night, it only has to be the day. Maybe it's still 2 hours into the day. Tamulom Beret says in the evening. Maybe it says evening, maybe it means when it gets dark. Tamulom Beret it says between the evenings, which is not when it's dark. Okay, so what do you do? Chalok Ben Arbaim. Split up Ben Arbaim. Retain Shtei Shos U'Metzel. One of the same that we had before. Put 2.5 hours before it. Shtei Shos U'Metzel Acharav, and 2.5 hours afterwards. V'Shah Achas L'Yisuko, and 1 hour for dealing with. It says so Omer, and this we learn. Shah Pesach Koreh. It should be. It says Shah Tovit. It's a typo. It should be Shah Pesach. So it says Lamed Shah Pesach Koreh Retain Shos U'Metzel. That the Pesach is brought 9.5 hours into the day. V'Shah Achas L'Achra means after the Tamid. What? After Tamid, Shoachas Yisuko, after Tamid, the 1 hour which they were involved in the Korban Tamid. So the Pesach is all brought after they finished the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbaim. Okay, so learn for the concept Bein Arbaim itself, which it says by Korban Pesach. The Mein Chamayim takes out the whole next line. I'm Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef said, "Oh, the Tamer LaMitzvah." Now this is all the proper way to do it. Aval equal, but what if you do b'diavad? Hadoid it's ninon. The diavad shachto konam chatzos pasul. That if you shech before chatzos is pasul. Lacher chatzos, but if you shech after chatzos and miyad immediately, it's kosher. Okay, so the question we had previously, what? Either kotor or basic. You shech after chatzos, that's cool. Even if it's right after chatzos, you didn't wait the requisite half hour. That suffices. Okay. One second. This means Kol Tummy kosher. What Kol Tummy kosher means? Oh, Kol Tummy Shebein Arbaim, obviously. Okay, I'm staring and not thinking what it means. It means before the Tummy Shebein Arbaim, even though you have to shecht it after Chatzos, it's only the Chatchila that you wait half an hour, and only the Chatchila that you wait till after the Korban Tamid. But the Yav, you share the Korban Pesach before the Korban Tamid, as long as afternoon you're Yotzei Chiv Korban. Okay? It says more. Why? And now this question is going back on the Mishnah. Or rather, on the early in the Gemara, we brought the Bryce where it says you divide up the afternoon into two. Right? Why don't we divide the morning into two? Instead of davening early in the morning, let's daven, the same type of idea after 2.5 hours. Right, the same way we do the Korban Tamid. So it says more no. Hochi iksiv ben arbaim. Here it says ben arbaim. And ben arbaim means specifically in the what?
It says arbaim. To have implies two halves.
Yeah.
Similar. It says said Baboker, there's a Ryan. This is Arbaim.
Oh, so 2 Aravim, that's right. The Ema B'Shachos Kenosi Ben Arbaim, which we learn as Aravim. So there are two, one on either end, as serving as bookends. So, however, B'Shachos Isol Chameim Tamon Ben Abkorim. Let's say Bab Korim by Shachos. It says Baboker, right? It doesn't say B'Korim, so there's no way of devising this kind of thing of splitting up the morning. Shumalevi says a different shot. He says, Tefillah me'avos lomdu. Anyway, the davenings don't correspond precisely to the korbanos. It corresponds to the avos, and that's why the way the Carbonate explains it. That's why mincha. You can daven ready from 6.5 hours, even though you didn't actually sacrifice Korban Tamid yet. Korban Tamid Shebein Arbaim was never sacrificed, let's say, for 6.5 hours at 12:30 in the afternoon. Well, nonetheless, from that time already, you can daven mincha. Because mincha, the tefillos, are not necessarily directly linked to the korbanos. And therefore, the order which they use by the korbanos doesn't necessarily apply to the tefillos. Okay, so is that clear?
It doesn't give any direction from the office.
No. The only direction from the office is reason makdim in the mitzvahs, that you do mitzvahs as soon as possible. It says more again. Rabbi Shimon Levi Omer Tefillah me'avos l'lamdu. I've based it, and really should be a ... between the avos, the tiknu Lamdu and the Basin, because that really not relevant to our Gemara. It's referring there to the Maitza where Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua had to fight, and they made Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Basin. But that just would be an expanded quote from that Gemara. It's not really relevant to us. Says Rabbi Shabbos. Who's the one who said both on a weekday and Shabbos it's the same time, no different time frame? So it says Rabbi Shmuel. It's Rabbi Shmuel. The Tani we learned the same day you do it on a regular weekend, so to do it on Shabbos. Leave Rabbi Shmuel, you don't change the timing. Rabbi Akiva said, on Shabbos, you change the type of timing, just like you change the typing Erev Shabbos to make an hour earlier. Says Yerushalmi, wait a minute. I lost my place. What? So Rabbi Shmuel, he's the one who said that you do it on a weekday, the same day you do it on Shabbos. Why do you say that? Now, the thing is, not, in my opinion, none of the Mefarshim here got this right. Rabbi Shmuel says in the Yerushalmi, in the Bavli, the reason why on Shabbos he would have to do the same day as a weekday. Let's start with Rabbi Akiva. The reason Rabbi Akiva did an hour earlier because there are no Nedarim and Nedavos. So quitting time was earlier on Shabbos, right? You just go straight to Tamid Shebein Arbaim. The reason that's what Rabbi Akiva's reason is that on Shabbos you do an hour earlier, like on Erev Shabbos. The reason Rabbi Shmuel's given is that you can't cook until nightfall. If Erev Pesach comes out on a Shabbos, so you can't cook on Erev Pesach, you have to wait till nightfall. By the time night falls, it's going to. The longer that you leave it around, the more it's going to start decomposing. So have a shecht as late as possible, not earlier than possible, in order to make sure that it doesn't start rotting before Shabbos begins, right? So here, I think that's what it's saying here. Rabbi Shmuel does an hour later, lipilpulo, to retain its flavor. And flavor is called pilpul. Why is flavor called pilpul? Because of pepper, right? Isn't that a logical pshat? Nobody says it. What? Sounds good to me too. Rabbi Akiva Makdim. Okay, Rabbi Akiva Makdim. I traditionally give myself pats on the back. Rabbi Akiva Makdim Shachas Li Sukkah. Rabbi Akiva, on the other hand, he holds that interesting halacha, according to Yerushalmi, says do it an hour earlier. You know why? Because what happens if people have a long lunch on Shabbos? They get drunk. I could tell. So Kadesh Loi Chatzah Mitzvah Mishukari. In order that people shouldn't come into Pesach drunk, so make an hour earlier so people don't have a long time to tarry at the meal and get themselves shikar. Okay? No. After Mincha Ketana. It's coming up, Arvi Pesachim. And after Mincha Ketana, not after Mincha Gedol. I think it's a Mincha Ketana.
There's a Gemara that says that on Erev Shabbos, what they do is they put the table away and they start.
But that's they start earlier. Okay? But I think it's Mincha Ketana specifically. I mean, we had a rain brachas, so we're going to have it again, but I think it's Mincha Ketana. Okay, the Yikra Pesach Tchil of Tamid Achra. Now, I asked you, Charlie, a very interesting question. First sacrifice the Pesach and then the Tamid. Why not? Right? Who says the Pesach will go second? Says, well, no, you can't say that. If you say that, then Pesach is not going to be Bein Arbaim. The Pesach will be Bein Arbaim. Says, Chochem. Don't say that in your version. Probably it says in the emendations here. It says here, in Mekayim shel Bein Arbaim shel Pesach, lo yitzei Savatul Bein Arbaim shel Tamid. Both of them say Bein Arbaim. Catch 22. No matter what you do, you're going to fail on one of them, right? So therefore, who says you're Mevatel the Tamid shel Bein Arbaim of Tamid? You're Mevatel Bein Arbaim of Tamid. Be Mevatel Bein Arbaim Pesach, right? So says the Gemara, no. Tell me if you do it a ride now. When will you fulfill it? Tomorrow you'll do the tummy at the right time. But it's one day a year, you have a problem. But the rest of the year you won't have a problem. But Pesach, if you skew the tummy to the Bein Arbaim aspect of Pesach now, when's the next time you're going to be able to make it up? Only next year. So it's more significant, interesting Yerushalmi here. It's more significant to make more, how should I put it? We're more lenient where tomorrow you'll be able to do it right than the day you were wrong. Than where if tomorrow you're still not going to be able to do it right. Because it does. You got the idea, okay? I'm trying to explain something which is not beating a dead horse. Okay. Says more, V'yakri, so Yerushalmi nevertheless continues along this phase. V'yakri Pesach Tchilah v'Tamid Achrav. Let's do the Pesach first. We're not giving up. Let's be marking the Pesach Tchilah and the Tamid afterwards. Now, it seems to be the same question essentially. So Lieberman and the Mashbiach both say is coming on. We're going on when Erev Pesach comes on Erev Shabbos. So then everything's done early, right? And nothing's done proper time because we have to hurry up, right? So at least then let Pesach go first and Tamid afterwards. Why is Tamid going first there? In that case, we have a value always between the Tamid second because the Tamid is supposed to be last korban in the Beis Hamikdash. So why then don't we do the Tamid second when Erev Pesach comes out on Shabbos? Erev Pesach Shabbos, so that nobody's being done at the right time anyway. At least let's try and do the Tamid after the Pesach, as is the preferred way of doing korbanos, right? So it says Yerushalmi. Is this okay if I stand? Most likely fall asleep if I stand. Although I've been known to fall asleep stand many times. Right? Used to what? Yeah. See, it's Kashena Sasus, yeah. So, I bet you've never fallen asleep though talking. Have you fallen asleep talking? Okay. I do it all the time. In the middle of the shiur. Alright. On Mike. Says Yerushalmi further. Give me a boy. Oh, I'm sorry. So it says we're not. You know why I can't do that? Because Yuchai Davish Nemar Bo Erev Bein Arbaim. But the Korban says both the term Bo Erev and the term Bein Arbaim. It says both. So therefore, it's got to come later than the Talmud Shloner Bar Bo Ela Bein Arbaim Buva, where the only terminology used is Bein Arbaim, not also Bo Erev. Says Rabbi Yirmiyah Boy Machamis Meimar Erev Meuchar. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the question. You're assuming that the word Erev is even later than Bein Arbaim. Hagwash. Oh, Neymar Erev Mukta. Maybe Erev is earlier than Bein Arbaim. See, in modern Hebrew parlance, Erev means evening, but not necessarily. And I'll prove it to you. Erev can mean earlier. Elokeni. So therefore, this is really the way to read it. Yuchai Davish Neymar Bo Bein Arbaim. Let Pesach come later because it says Bein Arbaim Kivo Hashemesh as the sun is setting, as opposed to the davar, the korban tamid Shlo Ne'emar Bo Ela Bein Arbaim Avad. It doesn't say Kivo Hashemesh. Now Masisim Asai Rabbi Yirmiyah, we have Brights, which is his Rabbi Yirmiyah, in demonstrating that the word Erev can have very different nuances of meaning. It says Shamtis Bachza Pesach Bo Erev. They should sacrifice the Pesach in the Erev. In the Erev, you slaughter it. When the sun sets, you eat it. When it comes to time left in Egypt, meaning after Chatzos, Ata Tzoila, which is a typo, it should be Ata Soreif. You burn it, because what is it now? No, sir. Right. So there was the Erev is in the afternoon. There are those who said B'erev is referring to nighttime, and you eat at night, right? And Kivo Hashemesh, as the sun is setting, at the Zoveach. When you leave Egypt, you burn it. So we see that Erev can sometimes mean earlier in the evening, sometimes later in the evening. So that's Rabbi Yirmiyah's proof that Erev is a fungible word. We can't bring any proof from the use of the word Erev. Okay? Says Yerushalmi further. Let's sacrifice both together. Both the Korban Tamid and the Korban Pesach simultaneously. What's wrong with that? Says Marat Amr Yossi, Keves Sheni. In the Keves Sheni ain't Pesach Sheni. Says Esa Keves Sheni Taser Ben Arbaim. The second lamb you should do Ben Arbaim. That's it, the lamb by itself, without any Korban Pesach attached to it. Okay? Tani Reb Nosson Omer. It says B'chol Yom V'Yom Tamid Nishcha B'Shmona Mechza. Every day the Shmona Tamid was slaughtered at 2:30 in the afternoon. V'Kara B'Tisha Mechza and sacrificed at 3:30 in the afternoon. Here Lieberman changes the girsa. Ma'o B'chol Yom V'Yom. When he throws in the words Ma'o B'chol Yom V'Yom. What does it mean each and every day? It doesn't just mean weekdays. Rather, B'chol Erev Pesach we're saying is that Shabbos is like weekdays, and you always sacrifice at 8.5, and the slaughter at 8.5 and sacrifice at 9.5. That's standard, no matter what. So what he's saying is that it's always the same halacha. Obviously, we vary in our Mishnah, earlier or later, but he says it's always the same time all year consistently. Reb Nosson says, Kol Yom V'Yom. I'm sorry, I went back. Reb Nosson says, Tamei Do'adein Tanya. The logic, not here so much the reason, but the reasoning of this Tana is K'dei Lita Chatisham and Pesach Pesach. Give a half an hour between each Pesach and Pesach. Meaning, if you have between each group of people doing the Pesach. So if you have the avoda finishing when, not the avoda. If you hold at the the Korban Tamid Avodah finished in 9.5 hours in the day. So then you have still 2.5 hours left. So you divide it up. 2.5 hours is 5 half hours, right? Oh, but that doesn't count. I'm sorry. You have 2.5 hours, so you take 1.5 of those hours for the 3 groups of people who are being the Korban Pesach. Then you have an hour left to do what? What do you think you're doing last hour? Roast.
They don't have between the groups to forget about what they're doing.
You don't have each group has a lot of time spent of half an hour to come sacrifice all their korbanos. Okay, that's what they're saying here. I'm not sure to answer your question. Ask your question again. But it's not dafka. I understand what you're saying now, because it's misleading, at least the way the Pnei Moshe explained. It sounds like it's a half an hour between each group. No. It's half an hour for each group. That's what it means. And then at the end, they all have an hour in order to bring their in order to roast their psachim. Okay? So that's what it says here. Tani, we learned Tani dam tamid ve'vorim, the blood of the korban tamid thrown on the mizbeach, and the evorim, the limbs, the imurim of the korban pesach, of the korban tamid, coming the pesach. They come before the korban pesach, honor pesach, and then comes the pesach, and pesach comes before ketores, before the incense, and a ketores comes before atovetz neiros, before you light the menorah. Istani tani, those who learned the opposite. There's some who learned dam tami ve'vorim coming the ketores, the blood of the tummy and its limbs before the ketores comes immediately thereafter. But ketores the pesach, and the ketores comes before pesach. Well, pesach atovetz neiros, and the pesach comes before atovetz neiros. Kadeshi karbu nischei tamid imo, in order that the nesachim of the korban tamid should be sacrificed with it. Because the general principle, as the Meich HaMayim explains it, is that they always used to do the ketores at the same time. They always used to do the nesachim of the Korban Tamid at the same time that they were doing the Ketores. So therefore, I don't know why. There's a custom, I guess. So therefore, he moves up the time, the Ikadam, he moves up the time when they did the Ketores to before the Korban Pesach. The first Mount Domer, of course, is after the Korban Pesach. So the Murim of the Korban Tamid were also after the Korban Pesach. It was a big hapsaka, big interruption. So the second Mount Domer holds they moved back the Ketores in order to move back the Nesachim of the Korban Tamid. In order the Nesachim should be done in conjunction with the actual Korban, which is the best way to do it. Yes, no, maybe. No, the Nesachim of the time. Oh no, Korban Pesach had no Nesachim. It's not a stupid question. It's a good question. Korban Pesach had no Nesachim. In order to have the Nesachim of the Tamid correspond to the Tamid. The Tamid had Nesachim. So if you did the Ketores and after Korban Pesach, and you only did the Nesachim then, there'd be a rift between the Korban and the Nesachim. That's why move up the Ketores. In order to move up the Nesachim, in order the Nesachim of the Korban Tamid should be sacrificed to the Korban Tamid. Okay? And Muktzah Tamid Shel Shachar, there's nothing which is brought before the Tamid in the morning. Lo Muktzah Tamid Shel Bayim, nor anything which is brought after the Tamid in the evening. Elo, except for, these next two words should be reversed. Elo Ketores, besides Ketores, Pesach Ba'arim Sachim, and Pesach, all these things are done after the Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. Minayin shlo yedova kodem l'tamid shel shachar. How will the Tamid Shel Shachar be the first thing on the Mizbeach every morning? Tamulomar olea oila. You put on the Korban on the Mizbeach every morning. The first thing you put on the Mizbeach itself. Everything else goes on top of whatever's there already. But the first thing is put on the Mizbeach itself when it's its pristine, pure state in the morning is the Korban Tamid. Okay? Oleh Olah, because the Korban Tamid is an Olah. Now we know that nothing should come later than Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. Tamilomar Oleh Shlomim. And we dash that to mean Oleh Shalom, which means Oleh Shlem Korbanos Kulam. Complete all the Korbanos by the time you bring your Mincha. You bring the Mincha in the afternoon. Rabbi Shimon Lakish Amar, V'arach Oleh Olah in Ksivka, a different form of Joshua. It doesn't say V'arach Oleh Olah to prepare an Olah, El V'arach Oleh HaOlah, with the hey, the Olah. Why the Olah? Shlotei Olah Kodemes, Lam Tamid Shel Bein Shachar. You always have to make sure that the Tamid is brought after the after the ownership on after the Mizbeach has been consecrated already. It's essentially the same Joshua we had before, right? Shem Elokesh Omer Varach Le'olah, you can see kind of Varach Le'olah. Sholtei Olah Kodem is the Tamid Shel B'Shel Shachar. I think what it's learning differently before is like this. Principally, Varach Le'olah means the first thing you put on Mizbeach is the Olah. Meaning the Olah of Tamid Shel Shachar. That's the first thing. Now he's learning. Other Shimon Lakish learning.
Now we're making a deal with
How do you see that? How? Yeah. True, we're making a big deal of the hay, but so what? No, it is the same pasuk. Varach Le'olah. Just didn't mention the full language before. It's only one pasuk. seems to be the same drush we just had before. I assume it's just the same drush repeated by a different Amora. Anyway, nothing should be bought before the Tamid Shul Shachar. People who lack kapara, in other words, them like a Mitzorah on the last day of his Tzoras, when he's coming Tor, Mevin kapara, they can bring their atonement korbanos after the afternoon atonement. Kadesh eat blue in order they should be able to eat. Toivel v'yochel b'schem l'erev and eat their psali that night. Rabbi Yehuda tema mitzorah osher. It's only by a rich mitzorah. Why only by a rich mitzorah? Because only he needs to have the mizbeach active for him after Tamid Shemein Arbaim. Have a mitzorah ani lo ofu maybe, but a poor mitzorah he brings a bird. And you know what? You can bring birds after Tamid Shemein Arbaim anyway. Because the answer on Tamid Shemein Arbaim is to put more karbonas on the mizbeach after the Tamid Shemein Arbaim. But a bird doesn't go on the mizbeach. What do you do with the Chatasof has no imurim? Yeah, and Ola, the Kohen gets nothing, right? The mizbeach gets everything. A Chatas is the exact opposite. So for Chatasof, you can always bring after the Tamid Shemein Arbaim. Because Tamid Shemein Arbaim only prevents you from bringing more karbonas on the mizbeach. But a Chatasof is not a korban mizbeach. You can go ahead and bring it. Okay? So if the mitzorah is an ani and he's bringing oifus, then you can bring them even after Tamid Shemein Arbaim. Amar Hashim bar Abduma na. Ain't maybe Asham doesn't mitzorah have to bring an Asham, and it seems that with the Asham he can bring after Bein Arbaim too. So we see it's not just birds; it's also animals, and we see that it must be that animals you're allowed to bring even after Tamid Shemein Arbaim. Okay. Pesach, in other words, again, because every mitzvah is bringing an asham, which is there's no asham, which is a bird. Yeah, you can bring by mitzvah, bring the korban in any order. Okay. Pesach shloch shloishma. Pesach shloch for improper reason. The kibel v'holach v'zarko shlishmo, and then you do the kabbalah, the loch, and the zrika for the improper reason. All lishmo, a kabbalah is to receive the blood. Halach is to take the blood of mizbeach. Uzraka is of course the zrika sadam. All lishmo v'shloishmo, he did it partially with the intent lishmo, partially with the intent shlishmo. Oh, shlishmo lishmo, vice versa. First shlishmo, then lishmo. Oh, this is possible. None of this works. Ketzai lishmo v'shloishmo. It's a case of lishmo v'shloishmo. L'shum Pesach, they have in mind for the Pesach. That's the lishmo component. L'shum shlomim, and for the purpose of shlomim, right? Which is shalolishmo. Shalolishmo v'lishmo would be the exact opposite. The shleim shlomim first for the purpose of shlomim, and afterwards the shem Pesach for the purpose of Pesach as well. How do we know you have to shech the korban Pesach lishmo? Now I forgot what the Bible says, but I don't think it's this. Rabbi Baba Shem Rav said, "V'amartem zevach Pesachu." You have to say it's a zevach Pesach. What does that mean? You have to say that you intend to eat it. So it has to be verbalized. Shem achila. Lomar im shachto l'shem Pesach. This teaches us if you shech for the purpose of Pesach, already Pesach, it's about Pesach. If you did not already, vim shachto vim lav eno Pesach. Shar kol ma'asim minayin. How do we know that everything else is fulfilled? It's supposed to be fulfilled by Am Yisrael. So because it says, Vasisa me'ata afilu ice cream. Shar kol ma'asim minayin vasisa Pesach. You should make a Pesach. Shu kol ma'asim shem Pesach. You should do everything necessary for the purpose of Pesach, whatever those needs are. Me'ata, if that's the case, if you look at the Imurim, you're going to do anything for the purpose of Pesach, then let's put the Imurim on top of the Mizbeach also. Right? Why? Because that's also part of the Ma'aseh Pesach. Even though it's not Makiv, you can't do the Imurim if it's Yom Tov or Shabbos. So it says in the third way, Tam Lomer Zevach, because it says, Amartem Zevach Pesach. Just like you got a shech in order to do kapara, because otherwise you can't get the blood. So too, anything else is dispensed with. Yotza hector imurim, as opposed to hector imurim, putting the imurim in the mizbeach, shemak with the kapara, the impediment, the kapara process. They, I might have thought they. Well, I don't. There, in fact, you don't need to have lishma. And though it's not part of the kapara, you don't need to have lishma. And putting the imurim in the mizbeach is not part of the necessary avodah in order to make the kapara take effect. Chatas minai. I know you have to do a chatas lishma. That says chatas sol chatas. You share the purpose of chatas. That's lishma. V'shakol ma'isa minayin. How do we know that all the deeds have to be done lishma? It says vasei sochol chatas. Make one a chatas. So also again, our asiyos have to be lishma. Ma'atafilu hektar imurin. So what about hektar imurin? If all the asiyos have to be lishma by chatas, just like by Pesach, so even hektar imurim. Says Gemara, no. Ma tamlom shachar says you shecht. Ma shchita miuchedes shimakeves kapara. Just like shchita is required for the kapara, yotze, and so to anything else, which part and parcel of kapara. Supposed to yotze hektar imurim. Supposed to hektar imurim. Put imurim in his back. Shein makves kapara. They're not essential, and therefore they have to be lishma. Now. Chatas l'shem bailam inayin. How do we know the chatas has to be shechted for its own nerve, like a Korban Pesach? Korban Pesach has b'michsas nefashos, based on the people who are covering it as subscribers. But I know chatas has to be shechted l'shmeim l'shem l'Yisrael who sinned. So it says the word Rabbi Yehuda says v'aseh asok waitis chatas l'chiper al mitayer mitumaso. The Kohen does the avodah, whichever korban this is, and it's a chatos, and he's mechaper on the tumah of the person who sinned. So you see, a chatos can work long distance as well. You got the idea, right? I shecht and it's mechaper somebody else. Said now let's say afilu hektar imurim, that even hektar imurim should have to be done lishma. Now, the Gilin Hashas goes crazy here. Says, what changed? And now all of a sudden the Gemara assumes again. The Gemara already got hit on there twice. Hektar imurim does have to be lishma because it's not an essential component. Why all of a sudden is the Gemara changing its tune here? And again, it's not changing its tune. It's going back to the question which we've answered from both viewpoints already. Right? So why is the Gemara feeling compelled to answer it again? About hektar imurim, why it doesn't have to be lishma? Again, I'm going to feel hektar imurim, tam lo rechiper. That's why it says chiper. Just like Zvika is unique in that it's part and parcel of the essential character of the kapara. Yotza hektar imurim. That's why you need to have hasil lishma. Supposed to hektar imurim. Putting imurim in his back. Shemak was a essential kapara. Therefore, the lishma doesn't matter. Now, why the Gemara asked this question another time? Why Gemara raised the question about hektar imurim? Already shot it down twice. So I want to give an answer on P. Drash. It's not a serious answer, but it's good. The answer is that what's the unique purpose of hektar imurim by chatos? Remember, drush. What's the purpose of hektar imurim by chatos? What? Symbolism. What's the symbolism? That you should see yourself that there be mark of you agavim mizbeach. You should be able to perceive yourself. Remember such a thing? No? So therefore, I would say by chatos you have to do the hektar imurim lishma. Because by chatos, since you're supposed to visualize, part of the reason for the chatos is that you're supposed to visualize that you're the one who's being sacrificed. Because you are a sinner, right? So therefore, you have to see the imurim are part and parcel of the kapara experience. So therefore they have to be done lishma. As opposed to a shlamim or any other korban, where the imurim are not part and parcel of any kapara, there they don't have to be done lishma. So that's why Rabbi Yossi woke up again to ask, What about Hektim morning by a Chatas? Why don't they have to be Lishma? If they already know by other things it's not necessary, we woke up and asked it again. You look very underimpressed, the two of you. Okay. What can I tell you? What? All right. So they're all tired tonight, huh? Pesach l'shem bailim minayin. How do we know the Pesach b'sheh slaughter l'shem bailim for the owner? V'dinu. So logic. Umayim chatos shem machshavas arelim utmeim poslim bo. If you thought about a chatos to shechter for the purpose of arelim or tmeim, it's okay. Any person, even an uncircumcised person or a person's tummy, can have a chatos on their behalf. Nevertheless, it has to be for the purpose of owners. Pesach Pesach for the purpose of an orel or a tamei, it's unfit. It's not a kavachom. It has to be for the purpose of the owners. Certainly so. It says, maybe chat has to be for the purpose of because it's the holy of the holiest carbon. It's a kodesh kodashim, which is a higher majay of kedusha. Tomar b'Pesach, maybe Pesach doesn't. Shuv kachin kali, because it's a lighter form of carbon. It says more, nevertheless. Rabbi Yisrael says you're looking at the wrong aspect, the wrong component. The component you must look at is the thought component, the lishma. Not the quality of the cheftza of the carbon, whether it's kachim kali, kachim, or kachim kali. Look at the lishma component. And where is machshava more severe? By Pesach. So therefore, riba machshava Pesach yus mechatos. Therefore, something applies to a chatos, you have to have a certain lishma. Alachas kama, that's going to apply also to a Pesach. Says Moram Rabbi Chanina Kumi Rabbi Mona. Where do we learn that a chatas has to be lishma? From the chatas brought of a mitzaycha. But a chatas of mitzaycha is unique carbon. It's not a real chatas, right? Real chatas is for a special. Is for navera. This is for a tara. Is the chatas mitzaycha altogether a new type of carbon? It's the only chatas which requires nesachim. Most karbonos don't require, most chatos don't require nesachim. Yet chatas mitzvah does. Maybe that's why it's l'shem bailim. B'davar shiyatzu chidusho ein l'meidim imenu. And some which has unique chiddush we don't learn from. Amar Leisa said no. V'chi chatos l'shem mitzvah me'echol lim l'meido shetei psul shlo lishma. How we know the chatas mitzvah is no good shlo lishma? Lo min adein karya. It's only from this pasuk. See v'shal chatos ol chatos. It says you should check the l'shem chatos. From that we learn out uksiv zos toras chatos torachas l'chol chatos. From in chatos we say chatos mitzvah we say it has to be l'shem bailim. But how do we know it's lishmul? It's possible if it's not l'shem bailim from the linkage to other chatos. And there's a bridge which says those Torah zos Torah achas l'chol chatos. So therefore, anything which applies by one chatos, we apply it to other chatos. And if it's possible shalo l'shem bailim by chatos mitzvah, it's true by all chatos. And then we can make a korban kavachom at the korban pesach. And we welcome shehila meida for the pesach we learn that a korban chatos shlo lishma is possible. For there we learn mishum milamedet. For there we learn that a pesach shlo lishma is possible as well. Okay, the next part is a new sugya, and it's a little bit of a complicated sugya, and since we're all falling asleep tonight, it's certainly not the right time to start this. Come wide awake tomorrow. Lieberman totally changes the Gemara on the base.